Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss instance variables and class variables in Python. The variables which are declared inside a class are generally called as instance or class variables. So any variable declared inside the class can be categorized into either in instance variables or as class variables. Now let us start with instance variables. What is an instance? Instance is actually a copy of a class. So when you're creating a copy of a class, that means when you're creating an object for a class, and then for every copy or every object or every instance, one copy of all the variables in the class are created in every object you are creating for the class, then it is called instance variable. So instance variable is a variable that has created with multiple copies for each object. Okay, that means for every object, one copy of that variable will be created. How to create instance variables is when you are defining init method, and inside init method if you are writing the variables, then it's called instance variable. So in init method, you are having a self parameter. This self parameter is deciding which reference is used to call that init method, or in other ways, when or for which object's creation this init method is called. So that self is denoting the current object, and if you are creating a variable using self parameter, then it is denoting that that particular variable belongs to that object. So that is what the specialty of instance variables. A variable that is belonging to a particular object, then it is called instance variable. Or a variable that is belonging to a particular instance of a class, then it is called instance variable. Now let us start have a demo on instance variables. Let me write a class student. Then this student class is going to have two instance variables, name and age of the student. So as I told you, this instance variable should be declared within init method of the class. So let us write the init method first. So def, then double underscore init, double underscore, again set of parentheses, and just like other methods, this init will take self as its parameter. Now it ends with a colon, and now within that init method I'm going to create two variables, one is name and the one is age. So name and age, these are the instance variables, but they should be declared with the self keyword or self reference before it. So self dot name, like that. If you're creating self dot age, then this name and age are considered as the instance variables, and they belong to the particular object by which this init method is called. Right now, let me initialize these two variables by using some default values. For example, this name is initialized with empty string, and this age is initialized with the value 0. Right now, what I do is I create a method, for example, def input val. So this input val is meant for accepting inputs from the user. Okay, it is meant for accepting inputs from the user, or otherwise it's meant for accepting parameters. Okay, from the calling function. Okay, accepting parameters from the calling function and to assign that values to this data members. Right. So now let me write this input val. So input val will take a self as its first parameter. After that, let it have two other parameters corresponding to name and age. So name is actually initialized with the value of the parameter n, and age is initialized with the value of parameter a. Right now, this input val is actually getting two parameters n and a, which are corresponding to a name and age, and they are used to initialize this name and age variables, instance variables. So let me initialize name by the value of a, like this. Let the value of age be initialized with the value of so here it is n, Here it is A, right? Now this input value is actually having two parameters n and a, and this n and a are used to initialize name and age. Now let me write a method display val, and this display val is just to going to display the values of this instance variables in the class, right? So print name, then self dot name, like that. Print age, self dot age. Now whenever this display value is called by a particular or by using a particular object, then the name and age variables or the values of the name and age variables are printed by this display val. Now three methods including init are written. Now let me create the instance of this class. So what I said, if an instance is created for this class, the variables which are declared inside init method will be having one copy, okay, in every object. Okay. That means one copy of this name and age will be there in every object you create for this student class. Now let me create an object for the student class. Let me create the first object s1 equal to student. So this is the syntax of creating object for a class. So s1 is the name of the object, then equal to or assignment operator, then name of the class for which you are creating the object, right? Now let me create one more object s2. s2 equal to again student. So two objects are created. Now what you want to understand is, as I told you, S1 is having one copy of this name and age, and S2 is also having one copy of this name and age. Okay, S1 is having a copy of this name and age, and S2 is also having the copy of this name and age. Right? Now first let me initialize the name and age variables of S1 by calling S1 dot input val, s1 dot input val, and let me pass two variables or two values corresponding to this name and age. For example, Felix, then corresponding to age, let me give the value 38. So name variable or name copy of s1 is initialized with the value Felix, and age copy of s1 is initialized with the value 38. Now s2 is also having the same set of variables name and age, right? So let me initialize that two copies. Okay, s2 dot then input val of, let me give another values for this name and age. So Joe's, and another one is 25, for example. So here s2 dot name is actually assigned with Joe's, and s2 dot age is assigned with the value 25, right? Now both are actually initialized, right? Now let us display both the values or both the instance variables values. S1 dot display val. So this will display the uh, name and age variables of S1, and then S2 dot display val will display the name and age variables of S2, right? Both are having different values. Since both are having different copies or different versions of name and age, they will be having different values. Okay, that is what called as instance variables. So whenever you're creating an instance for this class, okay, that means instance is object, one copy of this name and age are there in every copy. Okay, so here S1 copy is having one name and age, and S2 is having another name and age, right? Now let us run the program. You see, S1 dot name was actually printed with the value Felix, and S1 dot age is printed with the value 38. Like that, S2 dot name is printed with the value Joes, and S2 dot age is printed with the value 25. So here for every instance of this class student, that means for every instance S1 and S2, two copies or separate copies of name and age are created. So this variables or the instance variables copies are belonging to the particular object. Okay, right? So this is what you want to understand about the instance variables. Now let us move to the class variables. So what are class variables? Class variables are the variables which are belonging to a particular class. So in the what are the instance variables? Instance variables which are belonging to an object. So whenever you create an object for your class, then what will happen is one copy of this uh, class or name and variable will be created for this every copy, okay, every object, right? But what about this class variables is whenever you create one object for your class, then only one copy of this name and age will be maintained. Suppose if you are having a class variable, one copy of that class variable will be maintained for all the objects, okay, common to all the objects of that particular class. So that is what called as class variable. So that particular variable is not belonging to any of the objects of the class. It is belonging to that class itself. It's belonging to the class itself. So you can access this. You can access this class variable by the name of the class itself. Okay. You can access even using object names. You can use any object name to access that particular class variable. But that same copy, that single copy created will be accessed, right? So this is what actually you have to understand about the class variables, right? Now let me have a small demo on this class variables. Now, what is a class variable? It's a variable that is defined within the class. That means that is defined within the definition of the class, but outside any method. That means it's not a member of any of the methods. At the same time, it's a member of the class. Then it is called class variable. So here let me create a class variable. So there are three methods, right? And this class variable should not be the member of any of these methods, but it should be the member of the class. So let me create one class variable branch. So branch is the variable that is created outside all the methods at the same time inside the class definition. Now let me have an initial value for it. For example, computer. So let me assign an initial value for this class variable branch. That is nothing but computer. Now what I do is let me write one new function here. Okay, def then change branch. So this change branch will simply change the value of the branch or change the branch of the particular student. Okay. So here what I do is I just change the branch from computer to IT. So if I am accessing this branch, that is a class variable, I can access it using the class name itself. So student dot then branch equal to, for example, IT. So I am assigning a new value to this branch variable, that is a class variable, right? Now when I am displaying it, I am displaying that branch also. Okay, when I am displaying the details of a student, I am displaying the name, age as well as branch, right? Now here what I do is I access this branch using the self itself. That means by using its object itself. So the class variable is actually belonging to that particular class. At the same time, if you are accessing that using the object name, right, the same copy, only single copy that is created will be accessed if you are accessing it using any object, right? But in case of instance variables, if you are accessing a variable, instance variable by using an object name, the copy that belongs to that particular object will be only accessed. Okay, so the copy of the same variable belong to the other objects will not be touched, but here only one copy is maintained. So even if you modify that one copy, right, and by using one object, and if you are accessing it using another object, the same modified value will be accessed by or be retrieved by the second object. So self dot then branch, I am accessing this uh, branch of the student or class variable by using object also. Okay, now what I do is I am doing one thing. After getting the values of S1, right, I am changing the branch, okay, of S1 alone. So S1 dot branch, okay, but S1 dot change branch. What I do is I am changing the value of S1 dot branch, okay. I am not touching S2 dot branch, okay, but as per the policy or as per the principle, only one copy is created, and if you are accessing it using S1 or S2, that same copy will be modified. But anyway, now I am not touching S1 dot branch. Instead, I am going to modify. I am going to modify only S1 dot branch, right? That means I am calling S1 dot change branch, and the corresponding copy will be modified. And after that, when I access S2 dot display, right, it will return the same value what S1 returned into that, right? So S1 returned IT into that. Already it was having the value computer, and it is okay, reinitialized to IT. That is by S1. But when I access the same okay, branch by using S2 in display val, you see here, then it will return the value which was updated by S1, because only one copy is there, and whether you access it using S1 or S2, that single copy will be accessed, right? So S1 modified it, and when you are accessing it through S2, the same copy is retrieved. So that value of okay, that variable is actually same for S1 and S2, right? Now let me run the module. You see, name is Felix, that is S1 dot name is Felix, S1 dot age is 38, and S1 dot branch is IT because it is changed to IT. When I access S2 dot display val, it is displaying S2 dot name is Jose, S2 dot age is 25, and still it is returning S2 dot branch is actually IT, because only one copy is there, that is only accessed by S1, and the same is accessed by S2, right? So this is what the main difference between the S1 and S2, otherwise the class and instance variables in Python. So let us have a small summarization. So instance variables are the variables which are the members of the class defined within init method, and they are belonging to a particular object. So whenever an object of the class is created, one copy of that instance variable will be created in that object. But what is class variable? Is a variable that is belonging to the class, and only one copy of that variable will be maintained throughout the application. And if you access it using any of the object of the class, the same single copy, available copy, will be accessed, and it will be updated or modified. I hope that you understood the class variables and object instance variables in Python, and it's very important to understand the class and instance variables. Keep on programming. Happy programming. Thank you.